Okay, welcome everyone. As we are sponsored by A.B. Spry,
welcome,
for the Refuah Shalema of Toiba Reiza Bas Hinda, and for great Zivugim for their daughter and grandchildren. We are sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yudaya, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef ben Tzion ben Yaakov Zev, and for great shidduch for Chayat Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel. We're sponsored for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Beila Shendel Rivka, by Baruch Ian Lilu Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKohen, and for Refuah Shalema of Liba Bas Anya. We're sponsored by Eddie Chazan for the safety and Hatzlacha of the IDF and for safety of Klal Yisrael world over, and by Menachem Mansky that all those that are looking for a zivug should find it quickly and easily. We are a little bit ahead this evening as we are holding on Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph, and we are holding by Rabbi Akiva, which is 8 lines from the top. 8 lines from the top of Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph, as we learn to be Mekayim the mitzvah of the glorious mitzvah, I will say, the glorious mitzvah v'dibarta bam la'asais nachas ruach liyotzreinu. Rabbi Akiva ikla l'Genezek. Rabbi Akiva visited Genezek. Now, the people waited with their questions. I mean, the local scholars were stumped, and they would wait until a very great man came, and they would ask him their things that they were stumped on, right? So, for example, in Chicago, if Marshall has something that he's stumped with, he waits till a tzaddik comes to Chicago, and he asks him. That's the way it is. Like Ramosha once visited Memphis, and there are people that say they became frum because of their exposure to Ramosha. Just their exposure that one time, I've heard this from people. Their exposure to Ramosha got them to become frum. So Rabbi Kiva Ikla l'Genezek, he came to Genezek, and I have to tell you that I was motivated to travel and do scholar residences. I haven't done so many of them often, but I was motivated. The Chavetz Chaim says that the local rabbi could say the same thing as the visiting rabbi, but people will listen to the visiting rabbi more because he's a special voice. He's a voice that they're not used to. So Moshe would encourage Rabbanim to go and visit places, and I know when I did it, I had a lot of hatzlacha in different cities and different. Today, it's less. It's harder to get cities to be interested because of the fact that we have now technology. So they just have to beam in, play a share from people all over the world. They really don't have to pay to bring somebody over. It's short-sighted because there's nothing like hearing it from the person himself. It is short-sighted, but look, this is challenging shiurim in shuls too. Why should people, they could stay at home, they don't have to fight parking, they don't have to come and go, they could sit on their easy chair, have a hot cocoa or something stronger, and just turn on their computer. So it's becoming a very big challenge, it's not good. It isn't good. I mean, it's better than people not coming to learn at all, but it's not good.
The person being there is more influential?
Yes, it develops a chabura, which is much stronger in person. And that chabura is a social circle that's extremely important. Also, it develops a stronger tie to the Rebbe. Anyway, so Rabbi Kiva Ikla l'Genezek, Rabbi Kiva visited Genezek. Bo'omine, they asked him, Misanin l'shoyis or a misanin l'shoyis? Let's say somebody, he got up in the morning, he went to shul, and he learned, and then he did some errands, and he realizes it's 1 o'clock and he didn't eat yet. So he wants to know, can he say, you know what? I'll accept the day as a fast, and if he fasts the rest of the day, is that considered a tanis? Now, you'll say, what's the nafkamina? The nafkamina is, first of all, if it's considered a tanis, then at mincha you could say anenu. And second of all, if it is considered a tanis, then once he accepts it, he can't break it. So they asked him, misanin l'shoyis or a misanin l'shoyis? If a person, now this is only because, like I said, he realized that he didn't eat. Just to fast for a few hours, that wasn't a shaila, because fasting a few hours is not considered an affliction. The shaila is if he realized it's 1 o'clock and he didn't taste anything, and now he wants to make the rest of the day so that it should be a whole day's fast, is that acceptable or not? And here the Gemara teaches us a tremendous lesson. Lo yava b'yodei. Rabbi Kiva didn't know. Now, this seems embarrassing, but it's a tremendous lesson. You can't say that a person, if he is a big man, he shouldn't know the answer. Nobody was a bigger man than Rabbi Kiva, and he didn't know the answer. That's why the Gemara teaches us this. And to the contrary, a big man trains himself to say, I don't know. If he's not such a big man, he says, well, it depends. It's simple. He didn't know. So he said he didn't know. There's no embarrassment not to know. The Torah is very big, and you can't know everything. Even the great Rabbi Akiva, who Moshe Rabbeinu said, if you have a Rabbi Akiva, why do you need to give the Torah through me? Right? Rabbi Akiva didn't know. Wait, it gets better. Kankanim shaloiv de kachavim. Earthenware jugs of goyim. Asurin or mutarin. Are they also a mutar? We'll see that the question is if they were not used for 12 months. Could you use them right away, or do you still have to do the 3-day, every 24 hours changing the water? He didn't know. Then he asked an interesting question. During the 7 days that they inaugurated the Mishkan, Moshe Rabbeinu, although he wasn't a Kohen, he did the Avodah. But since he wasn't a Kohen, what did he wear? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Kiva didn't know. Now, you would say 3 strikes and you're out, but you would be wrong. Remember, they saved up these questions, and Rabbi Kiva says, look, they're good questions. I'm going to have to go to the think tank of the, once you go in the Beis Medrash, in the Beis Medrash there are specialists. There are people that specialize in kashrus. There are people that specialize in agadata. There's all kinds of specialists. So what did he do? So Asa Shol Bei Midrasha. He went and asked the think tank. He went to the Beis Medrash and asked in the Beis Medrash. All right, they said, Hilchasa Misanin L'Shos. The halacha is, yes, there is a fast for several hours. And if the person, Taka, at 1 o'clock says, I want to make the rest of the day a fast, you could do that. V'im Hishlam, and if he completes the fast, Mispal Tfilas Tanis. He could say by Minchaneinu. V'hilchasa Kankanim, Shaloiv de Kachavim, the earthenware casks of a guy, after 12 months it's mutter. Until then, you have to change it every 3 hours, every 24 hours for 3 days. But after 12 months, it's mutter right away. And Bamesh Shemesh Moshe Shivas Yimei HaMiluim. And what did Moshe Rabbeinu do the Avodah with during the 7 days of the inauguration? B'cholak Loven, a plain white shift. Rav Kahana Masnei B'cholak Loven She'ein By Imra, a white shift that doesn't have a hem. Now, generally, the idea of not having a hem is that nobody should be choshed him that he secreted something out, some precious gems out, and that's why it didn't have a hem, because of Marasayan. However, Rashi doesn't like that pshat. Rashi says v'lav milsa. That's not the pshat. Shari kfar nigmar hamalacha. It was already completed, and there was no money lying. There were no gems or money lying around the Mishkan, and therefore, what would he take? So why it was without a hem? Perhaps it was just considered nicer without a hem. Okay, and now I'm really glad to see that although
I'm guessing that
I'm really glad to see that even though we have a lot of people missing, really a lot of people missing, we already have 30 Zoomers, and I'm going to welcome everybody in. Dr. Block, Yitzi Fuchs, Mel Zachter, Dr. Guy, Shelley Zeitlin, Menachem Yemansky, Baruch Ian, Shimon Klein, Chaim Kramer, and that's Yisrael Fisher, Yaakov Warman, Saba, Eddie Chazan, Nachman Chapler, Marshall Castle, Michael, Avigdor Fried. You know, Avigdor, I'm glad to see you. I've been missing you. You know, this stuff. You know, you think that this is like school. You could come whenever you want. I mean, I don't understand what's going on over here. And Yitzi Muller, Rabbi Kranz, Moshe Lehman, Naftali Jamlin, Stephen Holtzman, Berish Gesserman, Yeshua Shmuel Eisberger, Ilya Shutman, and we learn for Rus Bas Eugene, Danny Vogel, Abe Arbach, Avram Rezepkowitz, and he came in just in time to be very late, Barry Cement, and David Helfgott.
Where are we holding? Where are we holding?
Oh, that's your name. I thought your name was Barry Cement. His name is Where We Holding. Hello, Where We Holding. Barry, it's great to have you. I'm just kidding around. We're holding by Itmar. Yes, so am I. We're holding by Itmar 4 lines from the bottom of Lamed Dalet. 4 lines from the bottom of Lamed Dalet.
The other 19 Zoomers being conspiracy against me.
Well, I keep on telling you, make some phone calls. Tell Mark that you're thirsty, you know.
Every time I call somebody, they say, I'm not going on that shiur if you're there, so I don't know what to do.
Tell them that if you have 51, you'll leave.
Rabbi, it says that Rabbi Akiva visited Ginzak. Then he went to the Beis Midrash. I'm guessing that that was back home?
That's correct. He went back home.
So how would the people in Ginzak know?
He got a messenger. He sent a courier.
Sent them back. Okay.
He sent a courier. Now, Itmar. Okay, everybody try to mute themselves, please.
I see 32. We're getting closer.
Yes, we are.
I believe we're 7 lines from the bottom, though. I don't think we got up to Itmar.
That's correct. You know, you got to keep up with me over here. You say I skipped something last night also. I don't know. How's that possible?
You can't trust pilots anymore.
Okay. So Barry
skipped like 3 lines last night.
Barry, 7 lines from the bottom. 7 lines from the bottom. Hachartzonim va'azogim, grape kernels and grape skins shall oivdei kochavim. So we said that the opinion of the Rabbanan is that if they're moist, they're asur, and they're asur both ba'achila and ba'ana. If they're dry, they're permitted even to eat them. And here the Brisa says like the Chamim, Tan Rabbanan, Hachartzanim v'azognim shel oivdei kechavim, the grape kernels and the grape skins of a guy, lachin asurin, if they're moist, they're asur, yaveshim utar. Now the question is, when is it considered moist and when is it considered dry? Heininu lachin v'heininu yaveshim. What's moist and what's dry? Amar Rabbi Yonah Mishmol, lachin kol yud beis chodesh. Lachin is the first 12 months. Yaveshin la'acha yud beis chodesh. And as I explained, Itmar Amar Rabbi Babachan Amar Rabbi Yochanan, kishein asur, and when they're asur because they're moist and they have a wine content, so they're a problem of yayin nesech, asur and afil ba'no, therefore they're also even to benefit. Kishein mutarin, when they're dry and they're mutar, you're allowed to even eat them. Mutarin afilu ba'achila. Now, Amar Rav Zvid, Hai Durdaya de Chamra de Armai. Now, Durdaya has always been translated as sediment. But here, Tosfos gives us a little bit of an etymological lesson over here. There's two types of sediment. The popular word for sediment is shmorim. And then there's Durdaya. So what's the difference between shmorim and Durdaya? So Tosfos says that Durdaya is when they would pour over the sediment water and make temet, make mead. So that's already weakened sediment. So Hai Durdaya de Chamra Darmoi, weakened sediment of a guy, Basa Tresa Yarche Shata, after 12 months, it's shari. So you have two things. You have that the water was poured over it and drained it to make the mead, and then it was also 12 months, so then it's permitted. Tosfos says regular shmarm, regular sediment, is also even after 12 months. Amrav Chaviva Berei Derava Hani Gulpei, jugs of an idolater, Basar Tresa Yarche Shata Shari. It's permitted after 12 months. And Amrav Chaviva Hani After the Taye. After the Taye are leather canteens used by people that travel. Now these leather canteens, they keep the wine in there for a while. And therefore, until 12 months, they would have to change it with water every 24 hours. However, after 12 months, shari. If they weren't used for 12 months, it's permitted. Rav Achabered Rav Ika, Hani Pirtzane. Now Pirtzane seems to be the same thing as Durdaya. Here Rashi says Psoila Shalanobim, but I'm assuming that it's the same thing as Durdaya. It's a type of sediment that was already drained. It was already used with water to make mead. And then after 12 months, it's permitted. Basa Tresa Yarche Shata Shari. Rav Achabered Rava, Hani Gulpe Shchime V'uchme. Jugs that are red or black, in other words, they were used so much that they changed color, still Basa Tresa Yarche Shata after 12 months, if they haven't been used for 12 months, Shari, a Yid could put his wine in them. Now, Murius is fish fat. Now, fish fat, there's a suspicion that the guy added wine. Now, we're going to see it depends if the locality, if wine is more expensive or less expensive. Because if it's more expensive, he's not going to add wine. So let's see. V'amurius, Tanarabanan, Murias Uman Mutter. The fish fat of a pro is permitted. You see, the Murias is made by steeping the fish fat in water and oil, water and salt. That's how Murias is made. They steep the fish fat in water and salt. Now, the first two times, the first two steepings, the first steeping of the fish fat in water and salt, and the second, a professional will not add wine. The third time, even a professional will add wine. We'll see that. Let's see how the Gemara develops. Tana Rabbanan Murias Uman Mutter. The fish fat made by a professional, it's mutter, because the first 2 times he doesn't add wine. Rabbi Yehuda ben Gamliel, I'm Mishim Rab Chanina bar Gamliel, Af Chilak Uman. Now Chilak is a kosher fish. It's called the sultanas fish. The sultanas fish is a kosher fish, but when it's small, it doesn't have yet fins and scales. When it's bigger, it develops the fins and scales. Now, therefore, you can't buy stamazai from a guy, the chilik, because he allows there to be mixed in it other non-kosher small fish, and you can't tell the difference. The pro doesn't allow the other non-kosher fish to be mixed in because it gives the chilik a bad taste. So therefore, Rab Chanina ben Gamliel, af chilik uman mutter. Also buying a mixture of small sultanas from a professional, it's mutter. Because he makes sure to remove the other non-kosher fish which would give the batch a bad taste. Tani Avimi B'rei Rabbi Avo, Murias Uman Mutter. The Murias of a professional is mutter. Now remember, I told you that's only the first 2 steepings. Who Tanila? He taught it. Who Amala? And he elaborated. Pam Rishon V'Sheni Mutter. The first and the second steeping, it's permitted. Shlishi Aser. The third steeping, even the pro adds wine to it. My time, Pam Rishon V'Sheni did not Shimnayu. It has enough fat. The pro doesn't put in wine. But then afterwards, for the third steeping, it needs help. Rama Bukhamra, even the pro puts in wine. Now, this is an interesting case.
How do you know if you did it 1 time, 2 times? How do you know?
It's different prices. So it's marked up that this is the first steeping. You know, it's grade A, grade B, grade C. Like some of the people that I have over here. But
it doesn't make a difference if it's a high price wine or a cheap wine?
So now let's see.
Would you use a cheap wine first?
No, the pro will not use wine if it's not needed. The pro wants to have it pure as long as he can. Now, Ahu Arba de Maraisa, there was a ferry, a boat, that arrived at the port with fish fat. Ha'u arba de marisa, the asal the nemela de Akko. It arrived at the port of Akko. Now, Osiv Rabbi Abba de min Akko neture bahada. So Rabbi Abba immediately got a mashkiach to go on the boat to make sure that they wouldn't add wine to the murias. So Amalei Rabba, so Rabba says, what does it help to get a mashkiach? Adho inna manatra. Until they got here, there was no mashkiach. Maybe they put in wine. Maybe they adulterated wine before they got to the port of Akko. As we welcome in Richard Rosenzweig. Richard, it's a pleasure to have you. Richard, we are holding on Lamed Dal Lamed Beis, a little bit above midway down the Amid. So Rabbi asked Rabbi Abba, you put a mashkiach on the boat when it got to the dock, to Akko, but who made sure before it got to Akko that they didn't add wine? Amalei Ado inna necheshla, says the Gemara, so Rabbi Abba told him, if you're worried about that they mixed wine in it, where they came from, kista the murias beluma. A kista, that's a certain amount, a kista of murias is worth 1 luma. Kista de chamra bedala lume. A kista of wine is worth 4 lume. So they wouldn't add wine because the wine is 4 times as much as the fish fat. However, now that they arrived in Akko, where, like Barry said, wine is cheap, it's cheaper than Aluma. Now you got to worry that they're going to add wine in it. That's why we need a mashgiach. So Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbi Zera, so Rabbi Yirmiyah said to Rabbi Zera, but why didn't Rabbi Abba worry that the boat arrived in Akko through the Straits of Tsur, and in Tsur wine is cheap? Dilma Aidi de Tsur Asu, the Shavei Chamra, the wine is equal to the fish fat, so they might have added wine. So he says no. They wouldn't have traveled through the straits of Tsur. Amalei Hasam Ikule, it's dangerous waters. There's whirlpools there. Upshure, and there's torrents of melted snow. It's dangerous riding, and therefore they wouldn't travel there. And finally now we're talking about the cheese of Beisunaike. It says that Rameir answered the cheese made in Beisunaike ba'achila u'bahana. The Rabbanan say it's only asa ba'achila. So now remember, they made the cheese with the rennet from the stomach of a calf. And the reason why Rameir says it's asa ba'ana is because they were afraid that they used the rennet of a calf that was dedicated to idolatry, which is asa ba'ana. So Amr Rab Shimon Lakish mipnei ma'asur gvina sanaike mipnei shiroi v'agolim shel oisa ir, because the majority of calves of that city nishchotim l'avodas kechav. Now the Gemara says, well, since this is going according to Rameir holds we're chayshin l'miyuta. We're concerned even of a minority. So if it's going according to Rameir, why do you have to say that the majority of calves are Avoda Zara, even if the minority are Avoda Zara? Says the Gemara, my ear, Yoroi v'agolim, afilu miyat nami, even if it's the minority. Rameir chayish l'miyuta. Rameir holds that we're concerned about a minority. Says the Gemara, no, but you have to understand, it's only the calves that we used for idolatry. But other animals also have rennet. So if it's the majority of calves are idolatry, so then you have the miyat of calves and you have also all other animals. So then it's just one miyat because it's the majority of the calves. But if it's only the minority of the calves, so it's only the minority of the calves that are offered to Avodah Zara, and all the other animals are also not offered to Avodah Zara, and they have rennet, then it's a miyuta de miyuta. Rameir is not chayshish for a miyuta de miyuta. So let's see that inside. I amrit raiv, then ikamiyat. If the majority of calves are used for idolatry, so then you have the miyat of calves that are not, and other animals that are not. So at least it's a miyat that of rennet that's used for idolatry. And Rameir is chayish l'miyuta. Eliyam miyat, but if it's only a miyat of calves, came in the ikar roi v'agolim de ein nishchatim l'avodas kechavim, and the ikanami shabehim is de ein nishchatim l'avodas kechavim. There are also other animals that are not sought to avodas kechavim. So then the amount that's rennet is Avodah Zara is only miyuta de miyuta, avalei miyuta de miyuta, or miyuta de miyuta, a miyut of a miyut. Even Rameir is not chayish, like chayish Rameir. Now here's the problem. The Gemara assumes over here that they shechted the animal to sprinkle the blood to idolatry. So Rabbi Yochanan says that we just learned it in the Mishnah Yomis in Zvachim. He says that we learn out chutz mipnim, that just like by kachim, you're mechashvim avodah l'avodah, and if you shecht in order to sprinkle the blood, chutz l'zmanai, it's disqualified. Here too, if you shecht to sprinkle the blood to idolatry, it's awesome. But Reish Lakish holds that we don't learn out chutz mipnim. And if you shecht having in mind to sprinkle the blood to idolatry, it's not awesome. So then why are the calves awesome? Says the Gemara, let's see it inside. Amalei Reb Shimon Eliakim Reb Shimon Lakish. Reb Shimon Eliakim asks, according to Reb Shimon Lakish, Ki nishchatim la'avodas kechavim ma'havi. So what that these calves were slaughtered to idolatry? V'atu deshari. You hold that if you slaughter in order to sprinkle the blood to Avoda Zara, it's permitted. If you shecht an animal to sprinkle the blood to idolatry, or lahaktir chelbal avodas kechavim, or to smoke up the fat avodas kechavim, Rabbi Yochanan Amar asura, because kasaver mechashvim avodah l'avodah, you could have in mind from one avodah to another avodah. V'alfinon chutz mipnim, we learn out Avoda Zara from kachim. But Reb Shimon Galakish Amar mutaris. Amalei, so he said to him, Tarminach shatech, may your time be elevated. In other words, good kasha. That's the way some learn. Others say, better luck next time. This is not a good kasha, because according to Reish Lakish, here it's talking about where you shechted the calf, that the slaughter should be l'avodah zara, not mechashim l'avodah. He has in mind that with the completion of the slaughter, he's doing the Avoda Zara. So the Avoda Zara is the shechita itself, and that even according to Reish Lakish is awesome. Now, here's an interesting shaila. It's a little romantic. We need a romantic. Oh, Marshall. Marshall is Mekadesh, his wife, with dung. But not just dung.
It's a lot.
But not just dung. Dung of a Sharaniskel.
Oh, yeah, I thought I was full of it.
So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Achadvoy Amar Rav, HaMekadesh Beperish Sharaniskel. Now it's talking about where it was with a Shavapruta. But a Sharaniskel is also Bahana.
Yeah, I don't buy the cheap.
But what about the dung of a Sharaniskel? Remember, she could use it for fertilizer. So Hamakadesh Beperish Sharaniskel Mekadeshes. If he's Mekadesh with the dung of a shor that's supposed to be stoned because it killed someone, she's Mekadeshes. Beperish Egle Avodas Kechavim, but the dung of a calf that was worshipped to idolatry, ain't a Mekudeshes. Now, what's the difference? Either it's logic or it's a pasuk. You see, by the calf of idolatry, they want it to be a fat carbon. So therefore the dung makes it look more robust. And therefore the dung is asur of Avoda Zara. So Gabi Egle Avodas Nichale Benafche. He's pleased that it should look more robust. It should look more zaftik. And therefore the dung is part of the idolatry, and therefore it's forbidden. But by Aval Gabi Shah Niskel, the shah is going to be stoned. He doesn't care if it looks fatter. And therefore, and therefore the dung is not forbidden. Iba Yisei Makra. Iba Yisei Makra. Or else, we have a pasuk. There should not attach anything from that which is banned. Anything of Avoda Zara, even dung. Over here, shouldn't eat the flesh. B'sara yaser ha'pirshay muteris. The dung is permitted. Now Barry couldn't contain himself. What do you want to ask, Barry?
By Charniska, you can't say that he wants it robust or not. It's what it is. If it's a very big, robust Charniska, why can you use the dung? You don't have a choice. If it's a big one, it's a biggie.
No, what we're saying is since it's stoned, you had no desire that it should be big. And therefore, you have no benefit in its bigness. And therefore, since you have no benefit in the bigness, it's therefore not considered part of the shor. Here, by the idol, he wanted its bigness, because it's a bigger idol. It's a bigger sacrifice. And therefore, that's why it lends to the idolatry, and that's why the dung is forbidden. Now, what this has to do with rennet, because the Gemara is going to compare the dung to the rennet, that we'll see tomorrow. We did the Bishni Yaimis already. Mitzvah Hashem, I hope that tomorrow I'll be broadcasting back from South Fallsburg when we'll also have the Chumash here. If you're in Fairways, we want to remind you that Thursday at 6:45 we have the life-saving defibrillator training in the shul, and everybody should know, if you want to come, even if you're outside of the immediate area, on Monday next week at 6:45 we will have a siyum on the Mishnah Yom Seder in the Zikin. It'll be a Fleischach siyum on the 9 days, and that's at 6:45 at the home of Gedalia Engel at One Valley Stream. Everyone is invited to participate. It's also a siyum covered my father's yortzeit. Givul Av is my father's yortzeit, so everybody is invited to that. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.